Cuba is receiving humanitarian aid from Mexico as the Trump blockade bites. Having said that, the humanitarian aid that they're receiving is not enough. That's not me being an idealist or anything. That's just me being a realist, unfortunately, because the real aid that Cuba needs right now is oil. And America has shut off Venezuelan oil from going to Cuba. The American government has said that they would sanction and take over any ships that have oil that they're shipping to Cuba. The American government is actively starving Cuba. They have been for decades since the Cuban Revolution, but this final iteration of the starvation campaign has been truly disastrous. It's openly hostile. It's openly inhumane. It's completely and utterly unacceptable. And I will be sailing on the Nuestra America Flotilla to Cuba. So be on the lookout for that with the good folks over at Progressive International that are putting it together. We're sailing to Cuba, bringing critical humanitarian aid for its people. Together we can break the siege, save lives, and stand up for the cause of Cuban self-determination. I said I'll be participating in this. The U.S. has strangled Cuba since its successful revolution for the crime of sovereignty and dignity for its people. His latest example of the heightened blockade seeks to bring Gazan siege warfare and starvation closer to home. We mustn't look away. It's totally devastating. Yeah, a fire broke out Friday at a refinery in Cuba's capital, threatening to compound the island nation struggles as it faced what amounts to a U.S. oil blockade. I can see this being CIA intervention as well. Like, it's not new. It's not unique. The American government has been up the Cubans' lives for decades, like I said.
The Cuban Missile Crisis that threatened a nuclear war, then decades of embargo, until the brief détente of Barack Obama's second term.
This is a new day. Es un nuevo día.
And Cuba is ready to fall, you know.
Yes. That was one of Barack Obama's positive accomplishments in terms of foreign policy, to which I give him many credits for. And not only that, but also obviously the JCPOA. Those were like the two major foreign policy accomplishments of Barack Obama. Those were objectively good things. And of course, Donald Trump came in and instantly f***ed it. Both. One at the behest of Israel and the other at the behest of the Cuban lobby. Joe Biden never actually returned to Barack Obama's normalization efforts. And he basically signed off on releasing the blockade for one day, his last day in office. It was disgusting, utterly disgusting. It would have been better if he just didn't do anything at all, honestly. On his last day as a lame duck, he released the sanctions. One day. Unbelievable. The things that we've done to Cuba, if there was a God, if there was karmic justice, the things that we have done to Cuba, the things that we've done to Haiti, the things that we've done around the world, but especially to Cuba, we will never be punished enough for it. Okay? We would never get sufficient punishments for the things that we have done to Cuba.
Now in his second term, President Trump has redesignated Cuba a state sponsor of terror, increasing the pressure on Havana. His Cuban-American Secretary of State seen as the architect of the policy.
Will you make a public commitment today to rule out U.S. regime change in Cuba?
Regime change?
Yes.
Oh, no, I think we would love to see the regime there change. We would like to, that doesn't mean that we're going to make it change, but we would love to see it change. There's no doubt about the fact that it...
Like, even the arguments about this on the liberal side of Congress is so bad. It's so disastrously bad. Where the liberals' arguments against this is basically, oh, well, will you commit not to, like, military intervention? Shut the f*** up. Like, what do you mean? We've been starving this island for decades, dude. It is disastrous. It's just monstrous. It's barbaric policy. It's disgusting. And for decades, we've turned a blind eye to these atrocities. And the only voices you ever heard was the Cuban Americans that are like, no, we need to bomb the island right now. F those guys, okay? Sorry, I don't give a what your diasporoid ass has to say about the Cuban government. You're over here demanding to laser your relatives that still live on the island, ass. Suck my dick. Disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. As far as perfect victims goes, Cuba is the closest you can get to as a state in terms of like being victim to American empire and still thriving regardless. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy.
Cuba's President Miguel Diaz-Canel says he's ready for talks without U.S. pressure or preconditions. Mexico, China, Russia, all calling for resolution through dialogue. Reports in Moscow, too, that it is preparing to defy Washington by sending oil to its friends in Cuba. The Kremlin spokesman not denying that and noting the relative lack of US-Russian trade right now that could be affected by you.
I mean, yeah, this is the tip of the iceberg. In 1996, a Cuban pilot observed a U.S. government fumigation plane spraying an unknown substance over Matanzas province. Shortly thereafter, an invasive pesticide-resistant insect never before seen in Cuba, the Thrips palmi, was discovered devouring potato crops in Matanzas. The Thrips palmi was later found in neighboring provinces among corn beans, pumpkins, cucumbers, and other crops. Despite the Cuban government's best efforts to eradicate the pest, the palmi plague persisted. Like, we've done shit like this on a bad day. Like, it's on autopilot. Do you understand? It's been on autopilot. Genuinely, what did Cuba do? I'm telling you, what Cuba did was hurt America's feelings. What Cuba did was overthrow America's ally, America's puppet dictator, Batista. That's what it did. That's literally it. What Cuba did was have the audacity to demand sovereignty, to succeed in the most honest emancipatory act, take matters in their own hands, kick out the American mafia, which was backed by labor unions at the time, kick out American interests, and call themselves communists while doing so. We will never forgive them for it. And it's been on autopilot for decades, dude. It is so disgusting. Cuba bled in Angola, backed Algeria's liberation, rebuilt hospitals in Vietnam under U.S. bombs, and supported struggles across Latin America, including Colombia, Angola, Vietnam, Algeria, Brazil, Colombia are oil producers with power to act. Any of these countries could save Cuba. Cuba treated Chernobyl's children, trained doctors across Eastern Europe, staffed hospitals in Nigeria after war and shortages, even as its own economy collapsed. They sent doctors during COVID. Because of the medical blockade that they were existing under, they found their own COVID vaccine. When the COVID vaccine was not sent in an expedited manner to Latin American countries, they sent their COVID vaccine to other countries. They developed a lung cancer vaccine in partnership with an American Institute of Higher Learning, a lung cancer vaccine that the American government refused to offer to Americans, a lung cancer vaccine that Americans, when they found out, would go and receive in Cuba that like the American government tried to punish people for getting, okay? In spite of the endless amounts of cruelty that this island, this tiny island has experienced, they have thrived, okay? They have been able to exist. Their existence, and I say this about the Palestinians as well, but their existence is resistance. It's unimaginable what we've put these people through. I cannot believe it. Even if his own economy collapsed, they did all this. From Ebola wars to global disaster relief, it gave when it had nothing. Nigeria, Russia, Venezuela, Mexico, Saudi Arabia, Norway. One tanker breaks the siege. It's unbelievable, dude. When you learn about the that we did to Cuba, you will never stop saying goddamn America, okay? It's not even close. And for years and years and years, we've been like, oh, they're so poor. The people are constantly rising up. They have an autocratic dictatorship. All this it's bullshit. It's unbelievable. Cuba has actually a beautiful history here in Brazil. Lula created a program that brought Cuban doctors here to work on small cities no white Brazilian doctor would go to, and people absolutely love them. Bolsonaro sent them away in 2019. Their doctors are famous all around the world. Like per capita, they send the most medical specialists. They send the most medical specialists per capita around the world. Like it's not even close. The American government, if you recall, I interviewed a Cuban doctor. The American government tried to make it illegal, tried to punish Jamaica and other, and Caribbean nations, saying that this was medical slavery or whatever. It was just so disgusting. If their current regime is not to blame for the current conditions of the economy, why does every Cuban national on r/Cuba decry the current government and not place the blame on U.S. intervention whatsoever? They're not on the island, chatter. What the f are you talking about? And also, even if they are on the island, you can still have people who are hogs. You know what I mean? You can still have people who don't know the truth. Also, you're referencing Langley's very own Reddit. What are you talking about? It's ridiculous. I have no interest in having a conversation with people that say like, oh, Cuba deserves it. You know, I'm Cuban and I think Cuba deserves it. You. You're a monster. You are a monster. An unbelievable monster. You are so cruel. The U.S. provided a flimsy excuse that the U.S. pilot was marking his position with a smoke generator, something this plane was not outfitted for and would have been unnecessary because Cuban ATC had already radioed the U.S. plane asking if they had any technical difficulties. The U.S. plane N3093M was operated by the U.S. State Department, supposedly to destroy drug crops in Colombia. In fact, combating drug trafficking was used as a cover for covert biowarfare against the Cuban people. Unbelievable, dude. We are ruthless tyrants. Oh my God. To understand how monstrous the U.S. blockade on Cuba is, think about the endgame. What are they trying to achieve? The goal is clearly to starve the people to the point where they're too weak to resist an invasion or so desperate that they're willing to accept U.S. control. To get to this point, the U.S. would have to plan on very severe starvation of the country. Another thing that they're doing is right now, there are appropriate groups that the Cuban government has to allow into the country. Appropriate groups that the American government has sanctioned to do this duty. So they are first starving the island, and then they're going to say, oh, the only way that you can get oil and limited quantities of oil is through our state sanctioned, State Department affiliated groups. That's it. That is how it works. A lot of people are confused about how things work. I myself I was confused about how things work in Cuba as well. Once I started setting up to go there last year, I learned a lot more. It was fascinating. For example, there is, on the island, there's a grid, there's an infrastructure for communications, and AT&T is still technically serving the Cuban island, right? What I assume they'll do is they'll offer very limited aid only through State Department sanctioned groups, and the Cuban government is obviously desperate. To get to this point, the U.S. will have to plan on very severe starvation of the country because remember, the Cubans fought a revolution against a U.S.-backed dictatorship, and they have struggled to survive under a U.S. blockade for half a century. They will not surrender their sovereignty easily. They will fight to the bitter end, and the U.S. understands this. The U.S. is gearing up for genocidal crimes. They backed the genocide in Gaza precisely in order to set a precedent that would allow them to do this themselves. It is pure, wanton barbarism. Every decent person with any shred of human values must resist this campaign with all their might. If the Cuban government simply started fair and free elections, that would be a huge step in the right direction. Here, you take a week off and really think about that. Do you know anything about the Cuban electoral process? No, you don't. You don't have any clue how this works at all. Okay. They have a higher degree of election participation at the local level than you ever could imagine. So shut the fuck up. It's not fair and free elections. America doesn't give a fuck about elections at all. The notion that America even nominally cares about elections is such a stupid thing to say, especially at this moment. I mean, they toppled the Venezuelan government, right? And what do? Now they are working with Delcy Rodriguez. It's the same government, dumbass. When has America ever actually done anything at the behest of democracy? When they say, oh, we're going to bring democracy to your country, just know you're okay, get ready to fight. Armed revolutionary struggle, armed anti-colonial action. That's what you should get ready for when America says, oh, we're going to bring democracy to your country. The 2019 Cuban constitutional referendum, granted equality and LGBTQ rights, due process, and it got 90% of the vote. They literally are more woke than we are, even on the libtarded metrics that liberals care about when they talk about civil society organizations and why we must topple certain governments because they're not gay enough or whatever the liberals say when they want to do regime change, right? Several states have agreed with the Fed government to remove active voters from the voter rolls right before the primaries. I know. Yeah, we don't even have fair and free elections here. Shut up. I mean, it's the same with China. It's just the same with every country that we have designed as a foreign adversary. The average American's understanding of these countries is so broken on purpose. You are being propagandized. I bet many of you before the China trip, regardless of how much I talk about China, probably didn't know that you can, I don't know, say Winnie the Pooh, right? It's like that most people don't even know about. And it's the same with Cuba. It's just a normal country. America's just decided to destroy it. That's it. That's the only problem there. You are literally the propagandist. Yeah, I know. Exactly. My propaganda is just speaking truth to power. My propaganda is going against multiple billions of dollars of unlimited reactionary propaganda that comes from the American State Department. I know. I'm the one who's doing propaganda, not the American government, dumbass. You are so brilliant. Thank you.